Hello kids, we welcome you to our KIDSLAND family.
So kids, as usual, our teacher Mamo Kanu is in touch today to do today's lesson for you. So let's hand over the program to our teacher.
Yes, Joanna, today we are talking about the story of Israel. Now let's go to today's lesson. Samson the Strong. All the days of Joshua, and he lived to be 110 years old, the Israelites were conquering the people who lived in Canaan and dividing it among the tribes. Joshua was a father to them, as Moses had been, and when at last they were at rest, each tribe within its own borders, and they had begun to build their houses and plant their fields, Joshua spoke words of loving counsel to the people, and they set up a stone under an oak tree as a sign that they would always serve the Lord and keep the law, and then he went to be with God. After his death, Israel was ruled by wise men called judges, who helped them to conquer the land little by little. Some of them were good men and brave warriors as Othniel and Gideon and Jephthah, and one was a prophetess named Deborah, a noble mother in Israel, and one was a mighty man of strength, Samson, the son of Manoah. The people of Israel had turned away from the Lord and could no longer conquer their enemies, but the Philistines had conquered them and had been their masters for 40 years when the Lord sent Samson to deliver them. He was not a wise man like Moses or Joshua, but he had great strength, and the Lord used him against the Philistines. Once a young lion came roaring against him, and he caught it and rent it in two, as if it had been a kid. When he passed the same way afterward, he saw that the bees had built a nest in the body of the lion, and it was full of honey. At his marriage feast, for he married a Philistine woman, he made a riddle for the young men to guess. Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong come forth sweetness. The young Samson. They tried for 7 days to guess the riddle, but they could not, and then they told Samson's wife to find it out for them, or they would burn her house. She begged him with tears to tell her, and at last he told her of the honeycomb in the body of the lion. And she told the young men, so that at the end of the 7th day they said to Samson, "What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion?" He saw that he had been betrayed, so he paid his debt, a suit of clothes to each guest, and went home to his father's house. Afterwards, when he found that his wife had been given to another, he tied firebrands to the tails of 300 foxes, and sent them among the wheat fields of the Philistines, so that the fields were set on fire. Once the men of Gaza tried to kill him when he was within their city, but he rose at midnight and took the city gates, with its posts and bar, and carried them away on his shoulders to the top of the hill. Again, the Philistine lords had promised a great deal of money to a woman, if she would get Samson to tell her what made him so strong, so she begged him to tell her. 3 times she thought she knew the secret, and told the Philistines, but they could not bind him. At last he was tired of her questions, and said to her plainly that from a child no razor had ever touched his hair. If it should be cut, he would be as weak as other men. Then she watched and cut his hair while he slept, and the Philistines bound him and carried him to Gaza, where they made him blind, and forced him to grind in the mills of a prison house. The Philistines were glad because Samson was their prisoner at last. And so they came together in a great feast to sacrifice to their god Dagon. For they said, "Our God has delivered Samson into our hands." While they were merry, they said, "Let us send for Samson to make sport for us." And he was brought out of the prison. It was very sad to see the strong judge of Israel, weak and blind, led by a little lad, and making sport for the people in front of their temple. All the lords of the Philistines were there, and upon the broad roof of the temple were about 3,000 people watching Samson while he showed his strength, for his hair had grown and his strength was returning. At last, as he was standing between 2 great pillars that held up the roof, he prayed, lifting his sightless eyes to God. "The death of Samson, O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me only this once." Then he clasped his arms around the pillars on either side of him, and bowing himself with all his might, saying, "Let me die with the Philistines," he drew the great pillars with him, and the house fell with all that were upon it, on all that were within it. So died Samson, who judged Israel 20 years, yet a woman, Deborah, who was also one of the judges in Israel, was stronger than he, for the Lord looketh on the heart.
So kids, today we learned a lot about the story of Israel. We hope that your life will get many things from this.
If you are not connected to our website yet, connect to our website today, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Then you can watch as soon as we post a video.
This is the KIDSLAND family.